Welcome to the Chineng Qigong Community Podcast, Wisdom Qigong Uncovered. My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is today's story. For many young women, eating disorders are a sad reality and a daily struggle. Like any self-destructive behavior, the consequences on your health can be dramatic. How do you respond when you're at a stage where your organs have been damaged and the doctors tell you, sorry, there's nothing you can do? But intuition tells you, you can heal. My guest today, Taryn Schwartz, has chosen life over death and taken responsibility into her own hands. Let's hear how she is reversing a path of self-destruction.
The upcoming content may be sensitive for some viewers and listeners. This episode contains topics of eating disorders and self-harm. If you feel uncomfortable, it's perfectly okay to skip ahead.
So, Taryn, very welcome to the show. How's Cape Town this morning?
Oh, it's beautiful. Cape Town is always beautiful. Warm, summery, lots of sunshine, beautiful, beautiful weather. Yeah, very blessed to be living in this beautiful city.
Okay, great. And you're working as a counselor and hypnotherapist. Maybe you want to explore a little bit on that. What are you doing exactly? What is your focus of the work?
I've been doing counseling and hypnotherapy for about 15 years. And I work with varied problems. So I work with adults, I work with teenagers. We work with things like depression, trauma, people trying to find themselves as well, people just on a search for purpose in their life. Hypnotherapy is really, really good to go inwards, to become aware of oneself, to reflect, and then also to construct a new image in your mind, a new vision for your future, and to really step into that reality in feeling it and seeing it and making it real. So I work as a counselor and a hypnotherapist, and I use a lot of mindfulness in my work as well.
Okay, I see. And how does all this tie into Chineng Qigong?
Well, yes, actually. Specifically in mindfulness, I mean, Chineng Qigong is all about being centered. It's all about being here in the now. You know, when you practice your routines, you don't want to be thinking about all sorts of other things, and you don't want to be in a state of stress. You want to be in the present moment. You want your mind in your body all united. So mindfulness and Chineng Qigong go hand in hand with each other. So, yeah.
When did you discover Chineng Qigong?
So, a friend of mine's mum introduced me many, many years ago, I think about 10 years ago or so, but it wasn't really the right space for me at the time. Then she reintroduced me it was about 2017, round about there. And that's when it just caught in my mind. I started doing some of the practices. I went to a class with Britta, and something about it just resonated. My friend's mum, she also continued to talk to me about how people had healed themselves completely from life-threatening diseases. And that was fascinating for me. And I thought to myself, this is what I need. I need something holistic. I need something that is going to really work on me holistically and help get to the bottom of these problems.
Now, at that point, you already had gone a long way, right? I mean, the story didn't start there. You've got a long story before that, tried very different methods, different things to heal yourself. Maybe you want to explore a little bit about your background, what issues you've been dealing with and how this whole thing unfolded, please.
All right. Okay. So So when I was a teenager, I developed anorexia and bulimia, and I was incredibly abusive towards my own body. That is also because I suffered a lot of other trauma, emotional trauma in my life, and often when young people experience a lot of emotional trauma, they can become quite physically abusive towards their own body. You know, a lot of girls start doing things like cutting. A lot of girls and boys drink. But you know, my drug was basically starving myself, bulimia, and I started physically hurting myself in that way. So a few years into it, that's when my health started rapidly declining. And I had to go into hospital. I had injured my intestines. The doctors weren't very promising for me. They weren't very positive. They said to me, "Oh, well, you will have to now live with this for the rest of your life." And it was very depressing for me. It's very depressing to hear from an authority figure like a doctor that, you know, this is it now, you've messed your body, and I'm sorry, but you're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life.
Right. And that is the opposite of what we are, focusing on in Qigong, as most of the listeners will know. We're always focusing on the healthy side, not on the problem. So always imagine, us being healthy so that the unconscious mind can do the work as well. And then I think that's one of the major issues with Western medicine, that you get these sentences basically by the doctors that say, you have this, you are that. And then you automatically, you'll start to take it on and say, okay, now I am this person who has this, or who is ill, rather than focusing on the self-healing abilities of the body. So, but thank you. Just continue on your story, please, Stella.
Yes, absolutely. So I was, as a teenage girl, your mind is very open and very susceptible, especially to authority figures. So, a part of my mind, I suppose, believed that. But there was another part of my mind that said to me, this can heal. I don't know how to heal it, but something inside of me, my intuition said, Taryn, you can heal from this. And that is when I actually started my healing journey, looking and for various treatments, therapies, and diets. And Torsten, that had been my life. All right. So from around the age of 20, I'm 44 now. So from around the age of 20, I have been searching for solutions. So I've done numerous diets, numerous herbs, numerous supplements. I've been to various practitioners and doctors. And although sometimes there may be a slight benefit for maybe a few months, what I found is that it just goes back again. The issue goes back to the way it was before. And that is incredibly frustrating. And I'm sure a lot of people out there listening can relate to that. When you go from doctor to doctor, practitioner to practitioner, diet to diet, and it's not solving the problem.
Now, I totally get that. I want to go one step backwards, though, because at one point you must have made a decision that the eating disorder is actually over now, and you are moving on. And saying that you've done this for more than 20 years now, trying to find the solution. There's a lot of commitment there. There's a lot of dedication to your life and wanting to sort this out. Now, how did you get to this point? Because a lot of people that might be listening today are not there yet. They're still struggling with their eating disorder, rather than moving on and say, okay, how can I best deal with the consequences now? So, how did you get to that point, please?
There was a number of things. Firstly, I chose life.
Right.
When I ended up in hospital and the doctor said to me, you've damaged your intestines, and I was in that state, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what have I been doing? I think sometimes people need a wake-up call. You need a wake-up call and realize that if you continue down that path of self-destruction, what is it you are choosing? You're choosing self-destruction. You're choosing death. I chose life. And I decided I'm not going to do this to myself. And so from that decision I decided, no, from now on, I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to eat, and I'm going to work on my mind. I'm going to work on healing my mind. I'm going to work on what is it that got me to a point where I wanted to starve myself in the first place. And that's when I started doing my own self-therapy. I started going to self-help workshops. I worked with a counselor, and I started really working on my past stuff. But all the time, the force behind me was I choose life.
So basically, it's two things that you did. You were dealing with your past, whatever caused the problem in the first place, and
Yes.
at the same time, you were looking out. Okay, how can I best repair all the damage that I've made, and how can I go back on a path that, as they say, that it means life and that means a future for me, and what can I do in that respect? So basically, there are two strategies there, right?
Absolutely. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have the self-worth. You have to go, I am valuable, I am of worth, and choose that every day. And at the same time go, okay, what is it about me in my mind, in my past that has led to this problematic state in my life? I need to dig deep. I need to go inward and find out where are the wounds and look at that. And I started in a more psychological way, talk therapy, workshops, talking to people about my past and how I can unravel that. So that's how my healing journey began.
Okay, and the when you said you have to understand and you have to take on your I'm worth it, find your own self-worth. How did you do that? Is that also was it also part of the therapies that you did, that you discovered this worth within you? Because a lot of people struggle with that. That is the reason why they're doing all this damage to them in the first place, because they don't understand their own value. Now, to find that is quite something in itself. Was that the therapy, or was there something else that helped you discover that self-worth?
So yes, therapy helped greatly, psychology helped greatly, but I've also been always a very spiritual human being. So I went into different avenues of spirituality, and I learned that I am part of the oneness of God. And when I learned that, I realized that I am worthy. I am worthy because I am part of the oneness of God. So together with my psychology, therapy, and my spiritual work, I combined that, and I knew that I am worth it. And I am more than any story that I have lived in my life. I am more than my experiences. And that is what I held on to, that I'm bigger than my problem.
Mm.
I'm bigger than the story I've been telling myself about myself. Yeah.
No, that's a very powerful idea that you've got there. And I think that's the driving force, right, behind trying one method after another, trying to see, okay, what can actually help me improve my situation. So maybe you want to explore a little bit. Now we go one step further on your healing journey. What have you done? How did it work? And how did you eventually find Yin and Qigong? And in which way does it differ from everything else that you've done before?
All right. Okay. So, wow. I've tried so many things. It's so difficult to even think about all of them. So I started in my early 20s. I moved to Cape Town. I'm from the Eastern Cape. And so I started with herbs, taking various herbs. I started reading up on the internet. I started talking to various practitioners. I started working with herbs, healing herbs, homeopathic treatments. I was actually diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome as well by a doctor, and he put me on various herbs and homeopathics. And I did this for a number of years. And there was, brief periods for a few months or so where my energy would peak and I would think, I'm healing. And I get so excited. And then everything would just go back down again. And I would be in the same position. I'm very tired, lots of digestive pain. My immune system was also overactive. So I don't actually get colds and flu because my immune system's too high. So that's a symptom of an overactive immune system. And it largely stems from the gut and from the spleen. And obviously those were the organs that were really injured when I was bulimic. So then after that, I did a whole course of colon hydrotherapy. And I did this for years. There were peaks of more energy, and then it would just go back again. And Torsten, all this time, I'm developing all sorts of other ailments in my body. I had lots of kidney pain. I was having liver ailments. My whole body was sore. I was developing thyroid conditions. And every day was just a struggle for me. Every day. One ailment sort of gets a little bit better from the herbs or the treatments, and then another one develops. So yeah, it was just an endless story.
So what you're basically saying, all of these methods have their merit and they had some effect here or there, but they didn't really help you to move to the next level. You never fully resolved the problem, nor did you feel like it's taking you to where you wanted to get to. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. All the treatments I've had, I've loved them and I value them, and I value the practitioners I have worked with. And for many people, they stop there because maybe that herb or that treatment is all their body needs. But for many people, that's not the core. That's not the root of where the illness or the disorder or the contraction is sitting. And I feel I'm one of those people.
Right.
The root is deeper than all of that. Yeah.
Now, which way did Jineng Qigong differ from these other methods? Why are you saying, okay, well, this might be, a better path for me? And, what was your experience with that?
So Jineng Qigong puts you in the driving seats. Jineng Qigong gives you the responsibility for your own healing. It is very different when you do a practice every day and you know that you are the master of your reality. You know that you are the master of your body. Very different doing that in comparison to going to various doctors and practitioners and taking a pill and hoping that this other person outside of me is going to fix me. And Torsten, really, I was doing that for years. I was constantly putting my power, giving my power to other people. This doctor, this is the one. No, this is the one. This herb I found on the market. This is the herb that's going to cure me today. And I constantly gave my power to someone outside of myself. And if you look around you, most of society, most of us think in that way. We think we must go to someone outside ourselves to fix us on the inside.
My name is Leila Cupido, and I'm the project manager of the Students Hub. Our team is constantly adding events, teachers, videos, and other resources to take your practice to the next level, improving the quality of your life and the life of the people around you. We do this work for you, so please use it. Hunyuan Ling Tong.
Now, for me, this is one of the things that I love most about Jineng Qigong, that it's not about something outside of us doing the work. It's really about us. And I think it's important to point that out because even within the Jineng Qigong community, a lot of people get that wrong. Now they think it's the master. Now, with all respect for the masters and the wonderful work they do, all the respect for Dr. Pan, who developed the whole method, but at the end of the day, it's you as the student who does the work. It's your work that will transform your body. And I totally get that this is a very powerful way of living your life. And if you do that, it transforms all areas of your life. It's not just the health, it's basically everything, because you start to take responsibility for it and you start to shape the life in the way that you want it without waiting for external circumstances or other people to do that for you. So I totally get that. And there's obviously more to it, because the reason why Jin Eng Qigong is working so well is not just because it's suddenly you doing it instead of someone else. There must be other things that you discovered along the journey while you think, Jin Eng Qigong has an impact. And maybe you also want to share a little bit about, in which way it had a different impact than all the other methods you tried before.
Well, I think, it sets up practice and discipline. And I think that's very important to have practice and discipline every day in your life. And I know for many people that's very difficult to say, okay, every day I'm going to choose a set of practices from Jin Eng Qigong, and I'm going to do them. And but I have found it very rewarding. It's become a part of my ritual now to practice, even if it's just a little bit, every single day.
Do you have a certain time when you do that, or a certain routine that you do, or how do you do that exactly?
I try to do it every morning. But obviously, sometimes life gets in the way, and then I do it later on. Maybe early evening or so. But I try to practice it every day if I can.
And if when you practice, do you enjoy the practice?
I love the practice. I would practice all day if I could. I keep telling other people, I don't want a job anymore. I actually just want to practice Jin Eng morning until the night. That's all I want to do.
Because I think that's an important insight here. Because a lot of people I talk to, they say, "Oh, I still have to do my exercise today," and so on and so on. It becomes a burden. But if you do enjoy your practice, then obviously, it's not a burden anymore. Something you look forward to, and nobody has to force you, or you have to force yourself to do the practice. It's just something that you do want to do, and then it comes naturally. So I think that is an important contribution to why Jin Eng Qigong works so well for you. But you haven't really shared about what's changed since you do Jin Eng Qigong. So we know your story until you discovered Jin Eng Qigong, but what happened then, and in which way has it changed how you feel and your health situation? Please share a little bit about that also.
All right. Okay. So this is the interesting thing, and which I think other people will also relate to, is that when I started Jin Eng Qigong, my focus was on physical healing. Okay. Or I was like, okay, this physical healing. All right. But what I started noticing first was actually more consciousness changing, consciousness and emotional changes within me. I feel that since I started, I am a happier human being. I feel that I have more joy in my life. I feel that I'm more optimistic. I feel that I have a greater sense of oneness with everything that's all around me. I feel that I'm more connected to humanity. And also I feel that my perception, my intuition has increased, and that is because of all of the emphasis on the Shenji Palace when we practice Jin Eng Qigong. So I'm way more intuitive than I used to be, and I'm just a happier person because I realize that I am not just a physical body. I realize that I am consciousness, that I am energy. And when you start your day with these practices and you get into that Qigong state of mind where you are one with the universe and the universe is one with you, and you are greater than your story in life, you are greater than your ailments, it can bring so much inner peace and so much inner joy. It can be transformative in that way, and that's that phrase in Jin Eng Qigong, Hun Hua, right? So when we when we unite, when we merge with the universe, it transforms us. And I believe that before it transforms the physical, it needs to first transform your consciousness. You first need to move into that state of oneness and release the old story from the past.
The physical, that's what Chineng Qigong theory says. No? The physical will follow the conscious mind. And that's why I think you've got a very valid point here, that it's about getting into the state first, working on the consciousness, on the emotional level, and that will automatically, change the physical body. So, and I know you've been also doing a program, you told me that before, with the Teacher Way. On that, maybe you want to share a little bit about that experience, so people can also learn about what Teacher Way is doing here, and maybe it's something that other people would like to explore as well.
Okay, wonderful. So I started Teacher Way's program last year, and I just felt really called to it. He speaks a lot about oneness. He speaks about the world consciousness community, how this community can really support its members. And his training is about Mingje, and Mingje is basically mindfulness. It's about coming into the present moment and being aware of yourself. So I was very drawn to that. I thought it could also help me with my own clients, and I started the process. And I'm completely hooked. I just love him, and I love his sincerity, and I love the practices. And so we focus on the Chineng Qigong methods, but for Teacher Way, the main thing is your state of consciousness. So before we start any method, we first go into deep state of meditation, and we tune our consciousness inwards. We connect with our body. We then merge our consciousness with the universe. And then from that state, we do whatever methods, whether it's La Chi or push-pull, or a whole range of other methods that we are learning. But the emphasis is be here now, observe yourself, and you are greater than any story, than any thought that you are carrying in your mind.
I think that is a fundamental idea of Chineng Qigong, and I'm glad you found a teacher that resonates very well with you. And there are obviously many other great teachers out there, and we also find that everybody has their own little favorite who they want to work with, and who just particularly touches them. And I can only invite people to visit the Students Hub and explore what other teachers are there, and see who is best for them if they do want to work more on Chineng Qigong and use it as a tool for their daily lives. Now, but I'm also curious about were there any physical changes in your body? Can you see any physical healing since you discovered Chineng Qigong? Is that also part of your current path?
So I think that this is work in progress, Torsten.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was just going to be instant like that, but I realized that yes, it is a path that I'm walking. So, but what I have been feeling is I get spurts of energy after, for example, doing lift chi up or chi down. And you know what? I find this so magical, is that it's when I'm in a group chi field, the energy is more. So whereas if I practice on my own, I still have a spurt of energy, but it's not as profound as when I practice in a group. I've had many classes with Britta, even though we're doing it virtually. And after that hour, I'm like, I've got so much energy. I can, write a book or, tear down my whole flat and redo it. So it brings in these spurts of energy, and specifically when I'm in the group chi field. But yeah, I think my long-term ailments, I think it's still work in progress. And I also need to be more disciplined within myself, and I need to persist with the practices. Yeah.
There is it doesn't matter which master you talk to. They will all say that if you have a serious physical problem, it does need a lot of dedication in terms of training. You can't just expect it to be gone in 10 minutes or something like that. You have to be practicing continuously, and then you can see on the path, all the improvements. And also, just because it comes up to my mind while we're talking about it, a lot of people, when they resolve a physical issue, they stop practicing. And that is also a big risk because then they're surprised that things come back eventually. Now, this is a continuous work that we're doing. I don't even like the way the word work, because, as you said earlier, it's a lot of fun to practice, and you're enjoying it. And if you do that and make it just part of your life, just as you enjoy maybe your breakfast or something like that, you're not going to miss it because you just love your croissant, your coffee in the morning, or whatever that might be. So if that becomes part of your daily routine, but in a joyful way, then I think you're on a really good path.
Absolutely.
All right. So anything else that comes to mind, Taryn, where you think, okay, this is part of what I'd like to share with the community when it comes to my journey of Qigong Qigong that could be of value?
There is so much that we don't understand about our human energy body and its connection with the larger body of the universe. There is so much magic there. And in my practice, I've had these intuitions, these moments of awareness, of awakening, that there is truly a technology within our body, a spiritual technology that humanity hasn't even touched on yet. There is something so precious and so powerful about our energy body and its connection with the universe. It requires more scientific research. It requires more experimentation. It requires more value put into that. And I feel very blessed to be part of this community that is researching this. We are truly magical beings. And so I want everyone who's listening to know that the power is within you. Yeah.
While at the same time, now when you were talking about how your energy is connected to the overall energy, you could even take it one step further and say there is no difference between that. It's not just a connection; it is the same thing. It's just our personal point of tapping into this energy comes from within us, and then we are tapping into the whole thing. Because really, if you think about it, the whole idea of separation and you're a separate entity from anything around you is just a man-made idea. There is no such thing as a real separation. It's just our concept. I once read something beautiful, and it said something like a thing is a unit of thought, which basically means if we wouldn't give it a name, then it wouldn't be a specific thing. So I love this idea because it really tells us that the whole separation thing is a made up thing. Yeah, it's not a reality. It's this oneness thing is more than just a fancy spiritual idea. It is actually the reality, and any separation that we put upon it is man-made. That is the weird thing, not the idea of oneness. That's all weird. That's just the way it is, right? And I'm glad that that this gives you a lot of inspiration and strength and supports you in your daily life. And you spoke about joy and more happiness and going through life optimistic. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is what counts. It doesn't really matter what else is going on. Yeah? If your day was happy, if you had joy during the day, then it was a day well spent. No matter the circumstances. And so I think you're focusing on the right thing here. And congratulations to that.
Thank you. Absolutely. And as you said, information, even if it starts just with feeling more joy in your life, in Jin and Qigong, all transformation, so it starts with information in your consciousness, then it moves into energy, and then it moves into form. So I know I am in process of healing. It may not have happened yet, but I am in process. So yeah, I hope that also gives hope to other people, that as long as you are practicing, you are in process of your healing.
Wonderful. I think that is the perfect closing words from you, Taryn. Thank you very much for spending this morning with me here and sharing your personal story, and hopefully inspiring other people that can relate to whatever you were to go through. And and I wish you luck with your journey. And on the personal side, I'm going to visit Cape Town soon, and then we're going to see each other, and we're going to have a coffee and catch up with everything, right?
Right.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Taryn.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the listeners.
Thank you.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Jin and Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy. To get your free ebook on the 8 verses meditation, please check the show notes below.